I'm Dave Butterwick. I'm here to give a presentation on deep energy retrofits, and I'm going to attempt at defining what a retrofit is, and I'm going to talk about some of the lessons learned through a carpenter's perspective from performing several retrofits. First off, I'm going to start off, I'm a 100% carpenter. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a carpenter through and through. I've always wanted to be a carpenter, and even though I'm getting a little old, a little grumpy, if I see you walking down the street and you ask, I'll tell you that I'm a carpenter. Energy efficient building has been a passion of mine for over a decade, and I started performing deep energy retrofits since about 2014. In the beginning, it was just me in a tool trailer, one job, a couple apprentices, a couple carpenters at a time. As retrofits begin to grow, as net zero construction and passive house construction began to grow, I've been able to work with some great carpenters and great designers along the way. So let's get into it. What is a deep energy retrofit? So there are quite a few definitions out there, and I'm going to read because it's detailed. But in my attempt to categorize a deep energy retrofit, I've come to the conclusion it's an energy conservation measure to an existing building that adds to an overall improvement in the performance of a building. It can be defined as a whole building approach to the construction process that aims at achieving a substantial reduction in energy use. So why do we do it? There are so many reasons why we do deep energy retrofits. Everyone's got their own reasons. Some people are trying to save the planet. Some people just want to be good builders. Some people want to be better builders in the next step. I'm not really going to talk about that. We're not going to get into it. As long as we're doing them, that's good, because they're getting done. Now with the carpenters. So what carpenters do can be very simple. It can be simplified. It's hard work, long hours, but when you break it down, it's quite simple. Traditionally, we build things out of construction material. We build things plumb, level, and square. We're responsible to read blueprints, follow instructions, and install products and materials correctly. And the best ones make it look good while we're doing it. During this, we develop details and methods that we use to make us effective at our work. So what's different about a retrofit? Not a whole lot. It's really the same thing. We're doing all the same things that traditional carpenters do, but we have to use traditional skills and apply them to a new set of details. In short, same skills, different details. We are building super insulated buildings. That's not really just a fancy way of saying we're adding more insulation than minimum code. In order to do that, sometimes we're adding insulation to the exterior of a wall with sheet goods. Sometimes we're building a wall on the outside of a wall and filling it with insulation. Sometimes we're adding panels that come pre-assembled, bolting them on a wall and filling with insulation. And sometimes we might even tackle it from the inside. All the same construction principles are applied to what we do. We just have to work through different details. The number two thing we're looking for is these buildings need to be airtight. The building code actually states that there needs to be a continuous air barrier surrounding the building in its entirety. To achieve airtight buildings, it just means that you're installing materials properly as intended in order to meet this code requirement. You have to apply thought on how to maintain the continuity through traditional building practices and apply them to new specs. Once you open up a building, you never know what you're going to discover. We've been in many situations where we open it up and see stuff we've never seen before. And all I can say is the 70s and 80s must have been a wild time in construction. You never know what you're going to get. But the team figured it out, used our methods, used new products, and came up with a solution to solve these problems. The third thing we need is to have mechanical ventilation. While this isn't under a carpenter's role, we all know that everything falls in a carpenter's lap during construction, so we should have some sort of idea on how to do this. And the fourth is better windows. And if you look around, there's window manufacturers here that I promise you will sell you their product. And I promise you, they will show you how to install it well. So what have we learned? A basic principle is don't wait for it to happen. If we sit around talking about it, we just keep going in circles. The information is out there. We just have to do our research, talk to people that care, that can help us, and start working together. We have to apply what we've learned, understand that we're going to have to pull the occasional audible, and if we do our research and come prepared with a basket of knowledge and the tools to make it happen, we'll be able to adapt with confidence. Sometimes you might get overwhelmed because it's not what you learned in school. You will make a mistake. Most of the mistakes we make are minor. Most of them are in the order of operations. Sometimes we might even have to pull off something, reinstall it because we forgot a component. My only attitude to that is deal with it. It happens. And sometimes mistakes are the best way to learn. And mistakes are crucial to the learning process. It's a crucial part of becoming an expert. The third point I want to make is understand the end goal. This is important. If you're going to make mistakes, don't make the same mistake twice. And when you do, keep going until it's correct. You have to maintain a standard of quality, understanding why something is a specific detail and why it needs to happen makes it much easier to figure out a solution. This is where the research comes in. One of the big components that we've learned in the Deep Energy Retrofits is to integrate the design and the build. If you're involved in the development of the details on the project, the more successful it will be. Constant innovation, which is what Deep Energy Retrofits are, need an adaptive environment in order to be successful. Developing the details. So this is the best part. Once you've made a few mistakes and you're over it, you're over yourself, you start developing methods and details that work. Then you're in the driver's seat. These details and construction methods morph, and parts of them can be used in similar details in situations down the road and in similar situations. So in conclusion, it's really not that different than traditional carpentry. None of this is really any different at all, except you have to figure out some stuff as you go. Now you have a new set of standards to follow. And I'll leave you this. One of the best framing carpenters I've ever worked with once told me, first you get good, then you get fast, and then you get good and fast. The same thing applies to Deep Energy Retrofits. And I think that's it. Thanks again for everyone for listening. Appreciate it.